Well, good evening. I'm Jeff Galloway, and I am doing this broadcast from my Fidipides store in Ansley Mall in Atlanta, Georgia. Producer today is Brennan Galloway, and I want to help you with your motivation. Do you know the key to motivation? Well, I had no clue when I was given the assignment a few years ago to write the book Mental Training. So I took 6 months off from writing. Now, I knew that there were a number of mental training methods and strategies that really worked well, and I will tell you about that in just a few minutes. But a little preface to this, I spent 6 months going through the research on how exercise activates the brain, and then how you can maintain your motivation and your focus even when you're challenged. And what I came up with is a whole concept of dealing with stress that you not only can apply to running, but any other area of life that produces stress and challenges. Last night, and you can get the streaming that we did last night on YouTube, and you can also access it at jeffgalloway.com. But last night I talked about the reasons why we tend to get unmotivated and then what we can do about that. Basically, the review is that we have two different brain operating systems, and we can choose which one we activate when we run or do any other activity. Well, when it comes to running, most runners in the beginning of a run tend to activate their ancient subconscious reflex brain, and that brain has behavior patterns for running. So it's very easy, if we're thinking about a problem at work or in our life, that we will just allow the ancient brain to be in control while we use our human brain to solve the problem. The problem with that is, if the ancient brain, the subconscious brain, is in control of our running, as the stress builds up from running, which it will, I'm talking about fatigue stress, goal stress, heat stress, other weather stress, then the ancient brain is going to trigger the release first of anxiety hormones so that we're less motivated as we continue to run. And then if the stress level gets even higher, the negative hormones start coming in. The good news is we don't have to do away with the stress to do away with those hormones. So tonight I want to tell you about the mental training methods that can activate your human brain and keep activating it if you slip back and let the ancient brain be in control over your running. So here they are. First, mental rehearsal. Mental rehearsal means that you have identified some areas of your running that cause you to be less motivated even when you think about running. And so what you do is you set up a rehearsal plan that goes step by step through the challenges that you tend to have during those runs. For example, most people have certain runs during their week that they're just not motivated to get out the door. So here is a plan that has really worked for thousands of people to get out the door on those tough days. So you are mentally rehearsing this in advance over and over again. And you lay out the things that you will need for your run the night before and place those items near the coffee pot or tea or whatever is your beverage or your wake-up mechanism. And then, as you're going to sleep the night before you run, you say to yourself, feet on the floor, alarm off, to the coffee pot. And you go through your visualization of actually putting your feet on the floor, turning the alarm off, and then going to the coffee pot. And as you say those words over and over again, it also helps lull you to sleep, so you get many benefits there. Then the next morning, when the alarm actually does go off, you put those feet on the floor and you focus on that. That turns on the human brain. And then you set that human brain on the laser beam of turning the alarm off, and then you're on your way to the coffee pot. And those three actions can almost assure that you will get your run in that morning. So the rehearsal plan would go step by step in turning on the coffee, sipping it, putting on one piece of clothing at a time, and then sticking your head out the door to see what the weather's like, looking around, and then putting one foot in front of the other, and then you're on your way. I like to tell people that the principle of physics there is that a body on the bed wants to stay on the bed, but once a body is in motion, it wants to stay in motion, and you can make that happen by rehearsing step by step. Then it becomes easier and easier to move step by step on those mornings when the gravity seems to be a little bit more pronounced than usual. So that's the first mental training method, mental rehearsal. But you can apply this to a wide range of running and other experiences in life. Rehearse it over and over again, you're much more likely to focus when you get into that situation, and focusing activates your human brain. So the second mental training method is what I call magic words. It's a form of brainwashing, and basically you are identifying certain situations during your run that tend to cause you to either get unmotivated or you actually quit your run or give up on your goal during that run. Well, I identified certain 3 situations in my running life, and I attached 3 magic words to those: relax, power, and glide. And over the years, whenever I would have an experience where I started to lose it and lose my focus and due to one of those 3 areas, but got it back together again to be able to do the best I could do on that day, I associated the 3 words in my debriefing with that experience. And now I have hundreds of experiences that are embedded in my conscious brain on the right side of that brain. And when I say the words over and over again, I feel the confidence that I had gained from having overcome those problems before, and it helps me overcome problems in the future. But the key to this, as in the mental rehearsal part, because I've associated those words, when I say the words, I activate the human brain, and then it overrides the ancient brain, meaning that the hormones that were being produced are not going to be produced for a while, and I have an opportunity to get on down the road a mile or 2 at a time. So you can use my magic words, or you can really find your own. But the important thing is to say them and focus on the words themselves, and then you're in control when you do that. The other and final mental training method is reserved usually for the end of a hard workout or a race. And it's actually a quick fix that you can use when you start to lose your mental focus and your concentration. I call it dirty tricks that you play on your ancient brain. Now let's face it, at the end of a hard race, if it's a hot day or whatever, you're starting to lose your focus, and you often will allow the ancient brain to seep back in and gain control, secreting its negative hormones. The key is to have a thought, a cognitive thought, that will then activate your human brain so that you override that ancient brain and the hormones won't be produced. So these are quick fixes that can get you on down the road 100 yards to 200 or 300 yards at a time, closer and closer to the finish line. The most popular of those dirty tricks has been the giant invisible rubber band. So if someone has the audacity to pass me towards the latter stage in a race, I take out my giant invisible rubber band and I lasso them with it. Well, at first, everything works pretty well because I'm visualizing this and I'm using my conscious brain to do that. After a while, I will admit that because I have focused on a cognitive thought of lassoing somebody, at some point, the conscious brain on the left side, the logical side, will evaluate that and then send a message to me, this is bogus. What are you talking about here? And then I have to laugh at myself, but laughing is a very magical activity because it activates the right side of the human brain, and that's the side that is creative and intuitive, and it has sources of strength inside that you can activate, but just the activation of the right side or the left side of your human brain is going to override that subconscious brain, the ancient brain, and do away with the hormones at least for a while. I promise to tell you a few other magic tricks, a few other dirty tricks that you can play on your ancient subconscious brain. One of them is carry with you some oxygen molecules. So carry with you an extra baggie and be sure to pack it through with some extra oxygen molecules. And when you start to feel the need for those, when you start to get really tired towards the end, take out that baggie, release it, and sniff in those molecules of oxygen and revive yourself. Again, this is a conscious tool and it will activate your human brain. Another dirty trick that you play on your ancient brain would be visualize and focus on the giant magnet that's at the end of the race. And this powerful magnet is pulling you towards the finish line. So as you focus on that for a minute or so, you are again activating your human brain and you're feeling the power of being pulled along. The fact is that you always have more energy and more strength inside of you than your ancient brain is going to give you credit for. And by having a dirty trick that you play on the ancient brain that has a cognitive thought to it, you can activate that right side of the brain that has the intuitive strength to get you to the finish line. So if you're interested in reading more about this, my mental training book has quite a few different tricks as well as the whole conceptual development behind this, and can enable you to set up a mental training program that can work for you. So thank you for tuning in, and I wanted to see if we have any questions.
We do have at least one question.
Great.
If somebody's feeling burned out and just doesn't want to do their runs, is walking enough to maintain their fitness during the week?
Okay, in case you didn't hear that, if you're getting burned out, does walking alone during the week maintain your conditioning? Well, for most runners, it will. And what I mean by that is if you don't have an ambitious time goal, then just walking the 2 days that are minimum mileage or minimal minutes will maintain your adaptations for running, along with the weekend run, walk, run. And even on the weekend, the long runs can be walked in their entirety, and they will give you all of the endurance that you want. So yes, if you're burned out and yet you feel motivated enough to do the walk, get out there and walk. Now, the other thing that happens when you're walking during the week is that a lot of people will start out with the vow that I'm just going to walk today, but they end up doing some form of run, walk, run later on. But even if you don't, get out and walk. Good question.
And a similar question, what about cross-training, likewise.
Okay, what about cross-training? Can you do some cross-training that would substitute for a run on your short runs during the week? Absolutely. First of all, if you're getting in 10,000 steps a day, then you're getting some good boost on your fitness from that alone. So the 10,000 step thing is a very good thing to shoot for. But the forms of cross-training that have been shown to really help runners are, first of all, running in the water. During the summertime when it's hot, it is a wonderful thing to use a flotation belt and get in the deep end of a pool and go through a running motion in the pool that is similar to what your running motion would be on land. Not only will you maintain your running adaptations, but you'll also help smooth out your running form because the resistance of the water tends to cut out little flips and turns on your feet. Another form of exercise that is almost as good as running is the elliptical, and there are a lot of different elliptical motions. I actually use an elliptigo bicycle on a trainer, and I love it. But elliptical training has a similar motion to running, and it can maintain most of your adaptations for 30 to 40 minutes every other day.
So we can wait for a second to see if anybody has anything else. What do you have coming up in terms of travel and stuff?
Well, I am very pleased to tell you that I'm going to get back on the marathon circuit in Grandma's Marathon this coming weekend. Not actually, I guess it's the, what is today's date? Today?
22nd.
Oh, it's the 22nd, okay. Saturday, the 22nd of June in Duluth, Minnesota. I've run this before. I've been up there several times. What a great running community up there. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm doing a running school up there too. So if you're anywhere in that area, even if you're not doing the event, you can join the running school. It's on Friday morning, and if you're part of the event, come to the running school. I also will have a couple of other sessions too, and I'll be at my booth for most of the expo hours too.
Anything else notable coming up?
I will be, we Galloways will be conducting our annual Tahoe clinic, and that will take place, our retreat, in late July and early August. I'll also be going to Des Moines, Iowa in the middle of July, and in August, I guess the second week in August, I'll be in Lawrence, Kansas, St. Joe, Missouri, and also Kansas City. So hope to see a lot of you there. And I will, of course, be available by email. If you have any questions, go to jeffgalloway.com.
And Kevin Gwynn has a question. Kevin Gwynn asks, do you find setting rewards as a good way to motivate?
Kevin Gwynn, who has a wonderful podcast, the Galloway Extra Mile podcast, his question is, does setting goals help your motivation? And absolutely goals do, because if you have a goal that is doable, and that's a very important thing, then you can consciously look at that written on a calendar every day, and it has definitely been shown to be motivational for people to get them out there on those days when they don't feel motivated, because you know that you have a certain amount of time left until that race comes up, and you do have to do the preparation for it. So again, that's a cognitive tool to interact with the calendar, look at that goal, and then look back at what you have to do to reach that goal this week. It's all conscious, activates your human brain.
And then, what personally motivates you? What
What is my motivation? Well, after having run now for 60 years, I have to tell you that there is nothing that consistently makes me feel better than having done a workout. Even if I don't feel good during the workout, I always feel better afterwards because of the brain circuits that are turned on. I definitely have a better attitude after a run than I started with. I definitely have more energy than I did before my run, and I definitely feel empowered to take on challenges, and my days are always more productive after my runs.
Okay, let's see if we have any other questions out here.
Anything else?
For a second here.
Again, I'm speaking from my Ansley Mall Fittipaldi store. If any of you are coming into Atlanta for the Peachtree Road Race, come by and see us. We have a lot of interesting historical things from my life. My Olympic uniform from Munich is in this store. I also have the very first running shoe that I ever used in 1958. You can see what the shoes looked like back then. A number of other shoes that are from various eras to see the transition. You can also see my 5th place Boston Marathon trophy and a lot of other things in the store. Plus, we have good advice. I don't know of any staff anywhere in the world that is as qualified and knows about shoes and feet as the staff in the Fittipaldi stores in Atlanta. So come by and see us.
Okay, the next one is in 2 weeks. Next 2 weeks from today. Next chat.
Say that again.
Next chat is in 2 weeks from today.
So in 2 weeks, we will have another chat, and we will have a couple of different things going on, but one of them is there are going to be some Peachtree stories. This is the 50th anniversary of the Peachtree Road Race on July 4th. I was the very first winner, and I'm going to talk about that first year and then some of the interesting behind-the-scenes stories that occurred.
Okay, one more thing. Kevin Gwynn asked, anything new with the Jeff Galloway half marathon weekend?
Okay, Kevin asked another question, and that is, and this is Kevin Gwynn, in case you didn't hear. Kevin is the producer of the Galloway Extra Mile podcast that is absolutely fabulous. And download it. It'll get you through long runs with a lot of good information. So are there any new things with the Galloway Jeff Barb weekend in December? Yes, we have a relay this year, a 3-person relay. And one of the aspects of this is that the very last leg is starting right near the Orpheus Brewery, which is one of our sponsors for the race. But that is a shorter leg, and it's only about 2 miles. So you can actually bring someone in who is not ready to run 6, 8, or 10 miles, and have them be the anchor leg. So you have a youngster or someone who is not trained up right now, they can be part of your team. So I hope you can do that. And we'll have some other new things for the weekend that we'll be announcing a little bit later.
Do you know if there's child care is coming back?
I do not know about that. We'll let you know whether there's... last year we had child care for our participants, so I don't know about that this year, but next time, ask me. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you somewhere along the road.